All right, guys, what is up? It's Katie Does Auto again. Today we're going to be showing you how to pressure test a cooling system so you can check it for leaks or a blown head gasket, as well as vacuum purge it and pressure refill it so you get all the air pockets out using this handy tool from Amazon. Oh, there's some glare on that. You can't see that. We'll get right into this. So the vehicle we're going to be working on today is a 2004 Dodge Dakota with the 4.7 liter Magnum. Being a Chrysler, I'll warn you right now, it's harder to get adapters for these for your kit. So what I actually did is I rented the Advanced Auto Power Built kit, and it's kit 70. And then we're using this rubber plug adapter out of that. And I'm going to combine it with my Amazon tester so we can do vacuum, purge, and refill. So we're going to be combining two different things. We'll go ahead and get right into it. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to pressure test the system to ensure we don't have any leaks. Otherwise, it's not even worth purging and refilling the system if you have leaks. All right, so the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to locate the car's radiator cap. In this particular case, this vehicle has I guess you'd call it like a remote mount radiator cap, where it's not actually mounted on the radiator. It's mounted on the thermostat outlet housing pipe. So we're going to go ahead and remove the radiator cap. Quick note, never take this off if your engine's hot or the cooling system's hot. At that point, you can get boiling coolant in your face or over your arms, and you definitely don't want that. So go ahead, take the radiator cap off. If you have a Ford or a European vehicle, it might be typical for it to have a pressurized coolant reservoir, which is where it's going to screw off. Those are also under pressure and hot, so don't remove them if the engine's hot. In this particular case, this Dodge just has a standard radiator cap. Not on the radiator though. The radiator is up here behind the core support. It's remote mounted, so we got that off. So the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to pick the applicable adapter that fits into our car's coolant reservoir or radiator cap. In this particular case, like I said, this is a Mopar, so we're going to have to use this, but there's plenty of adapters here to pick from. So we will go ahead and get this put into here. A quick tip here is if you go ahead and take a little bit of silicone spray with these rubber plug adapters, this just ensures you won't get a leak and you can get it in there really tight. So with this, we are going to turn it, the top piece, so it expands the rubber plug. Now it's in there. Now that guy's in there tight. Next thing we're going to do is we are going to pull the pressure tester, which is this guy. We're going to pull the pressure tester out of our kit. It looks like a giant bicycle pump. We are going to take the adapter and put it into the top of our pressure test adapter. We're going to pump it up. All right, so now that we got this hooked up, we're going to want to pump the system to about 10 to 15 psi. You really don't want to exceed that pressure or you can blow the radiator cap off. It's not going to damage the system, it just might make a mess. So we're going to go in the 10 to 15 psi range, and then we'll let it sit. Now, I don't suspect this truck of any leaks, but it's a good test to do. If you're having an overheating issue and you can't trace it down, this is a really good test to do. Which can indicate a blown head gasket. Okay, so we're at about, I want to say 14 psi there. So we're going to let the system sit at 14 psi. Typically you leave it for 10 to 15 minutes just to ensure there's no leak down. So we're going to go ahead and let the system sit, and then we'll come back. Okay, we're back. As you can see, it's holding pressure right around 13 psi, and it's been about 10 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and call this good. So now we're going to release pressure from the tool. It has a little valve up here. I'm going to press. All right, now it's safe to disconnect the tool. So now we know our cooling system does not have any internal leaks, no head gasket leaks. It doesn't have any external leaks, no hoses are leaking. The coolant reservoir is not leaking. Now we know that part of the truck is good. The next piece we're going to test is going to be the radiator cap. In order to do this, what you're going to need is you're going to need to get your radiator cap that's on your vehicle. In your kit, there's going to be an adapter. It'll look like this. Go ahead and put your radiator cap on the adapter. Just like so. And then get another one of the stainless or iron cap lids and put it on the other end from your pressure tester kit. Somebody's calling me. So now we're back from the phone call. So you got your factory cap on here. You have your adapter, and then you have one of the caps from your pressure tester kit with the nipple. So what you want to do is you want to take your pump, you want to hook it on here, and then we're just going to give it some pressure. This is probably only going to take one pump. Okay, so we got that right at around 15 psi. If you look on the top of your cap, somewhere it's going to say the pressure rating on it. This one says 20 psi. You guys can't read it because it's corroded. But where does it say? Right over here. It says 20 psi. You guys can't see that. So just go ahead and pressurize it to below whatever your cap is rated for. If you pressurize it past that, it's going to blow and the pressure relief in your cap's going to happen, and it obviously isn't going to hold pressure. You're going to move the spring if you put it past that. So what you want to do is keep it below that. Just watch the gauge and make sure it doesn't leak. This one doesn't. It's holding solid 14 psi. We're going to go ahead and call the radiator cap good on this. So once you're done with that, go ahead, release pressure from the tool. Take your radiator cap off. I'm going to set it back down on top of the battery. Go ahead and disconnect this mess. Put it back in the kit. And our next step here is going to be to drain the cooling system, or at least we're going to drain the radiator, and then we're going to start the vacuum purge of the cooling system. So that'll be our next step. Okay, so if you can, before you go ahead and drain your cooling system, you want to pull your adapter off of your radiator or reservoir, so that way you get positive pressure in. When you drain it, it forces all the coolant out. This particular one I'm going to leave on because it was extremely hard to get on and off because it's Mopar and they're weird. So we're going to go ahead, raise the truck up, crack the radiator drain valve, and I'll get... We're underneath the vehicle, and if you're doing this on your driveway, just crawl underneath of it. This particular Dodge Dakota has a plastic access panel we're going to have to pull off because otherwise you can't see what you're doing. Use a trim tool to take that off. You can get them at Harbor Freight or Amazon or whatever. And then as you take these off, they probably will get messed up, but we can just reuse them. It's fine. Almost there. There we go. Victory. When working on cars, just get angrier. Alright, so looking under the driver's side front of the vehicle, the Dakota has its radiator drain valve stashed up in the bumper. Right. It's going to be hard for you guys to see. It's right there on the corner. I can't really get it on camera, but if you reach your hand in here and go right over here, you'll feel it. You might need to use some pliers to help you crack it loose. But let me get a drain pan out and we'll start draining this. Alright, we got our drain pan set up. We're going to go ahead and loosen the petcock. And fair warning, this does make a mess. the coolant's gonna fucking splash out of here and go over the place. Alright, so as you guys can see here, the radiator's it's pretty much done draining. We're gonna go ahead, close the petcock. Close that up. Make sure you stress out your fingers when you're doing so. There we go. Alright, we'll go ahead and close that. We're going to put the splash panel back on because we're not going to need to be down here anymore. Alright guys, the next step before we go any farther, we want to go ahead and suck the coolant out of the reservoir. That way we're getting fresh coolant in the system before we vacuum purge it. This is a Harbor Freight siphon hose. I think you can get them for like 99 cents or $2. There's guys with much nicer tools like transfer pumps or even electronic ones. We're just going to use this because it's easy. And most people have this or can get this. So... Okay, so the next thing we're going to want to do is grab our manifold gauge. How we want to orientate it to do the vacuum purge is we're going to want to have this left-hand valve open. So put it to open. We want the bottom valve here to closed. Leave that on closed. And then this is our shuttle valve that turns the airline on and off, on, off. So we're in the off position right now. We're going to leave that off for now. We're going to go ahead and hook the blue hose up to the adapter on our radiator cap. There we go. And we're going to go ahead and hook our air compressor up. I turned the pressure on my compressor down to like 50 psi. Okay, so now that we got that hooked up, we're going to go ahead and turn the shuttle valve on. And we're gonna let this pool vacuum right now. It should get us down to like, I think -20. So we're gonna let this get in the yellow range of 20 to 25. So just keep letting it run till it's in the range of 20 to 25. I'm gonna shut it off soon. And you'll see your radiator hoses start to collapse. And the reason it's collapsing is because you're pulling vacuum on the whole system. I'm gonna let it go a little longer. You can see we're down in the yellow now. And all the air is going to come rushing out the bottom. Okay. So we got a vacuum pulled of about -20. Let me see if I can show you guys this. I'd have to take you off the mount, but we're in the yellow of -20. So now we're good. Now we have vacuum pulled on the system, right? Sorry about the air compressor in the background. Turns out this uses quite a bit of air. Okay. Next step. Next step is going to be to fill the cooling system. We're going to get to filling the cooling system, which is under vacuum. We're going to take the vinyl coolant tube. We're going to connect it down here. Okay. Make sure the bottom valve is off. I think you guys can see where this is going. Go ahead and grab your jug of coolant. I'm using Prestone 50/50 all vehicle mix. It's yellow. It works in everything. It's awesome. Okay, the next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and take the clear vinyl tube, put it into the bottom of our coolant jug. We do not want this to suck air. It's just like when you're servicing an AC system, you don't want any air to get in. So I'm gonna go ahead and hold the tank down here. Actually, I can set it down on the front bumper. We'll see if that takes off on us or not. Want to make sure we keep an eye on the level in our coolant jug so we're not sucking air in. Then open up the bottom valve, and this is going to suck coolant into the system because it's under vacuum right now. Oh, I thought it was yellow. I guess it's green. We'll know this operation's done when the needle reaches 0. That means it's sucked in all the coolant it needs, and it's not pulling vacuum anymore. So you might have to go through 2 jugs, just keep an eye on it. If you have to go through a transfer of a jug, turn the valve off, do your transfer back into the new jug, and turn it on. We're trying to minimize air pockets in the system. And if you let the cooling system suck in air, it's not going to run as effectively as it should. Because we all know water transfers heat better than air. At least when it comes to engines. All right. We'll go ahead and turn this off. Okay, well, it looks like the Amazon special doesn't actually return to 0. It's sitting at about -5. But we went ahead, took all the pressure out of the system. Oops, spilled a little coolant. So I'm gonna go ahead and say the cooling system is filled adequately. We're gonna go ahead, remove our adapter, and add a little extra in just to make sure it's topped off. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. All right, now at this point, we're going to go ahead and top the system off just to verify it's filled to maximum capacity. Always add coolant through the radiator cap if you're servicing it, not through the overflow tank. That's not going to do anything. Make sure we're adding it through the radiator cap. We're going to see if we can go through. See if we can go for a freehand. Oh shit. Okay, that is completely topped off. Only had to add a little bit extra from the jug. All right, now that we have the cooling system filled, we're gonna go ahead and top off the overflow tank. The 4.7 is equipped with a dipstick for the overflow. You can see the bottom, it says add. The top, it says full. Almost similar to an engine dipstick. Stick it in. We see we're all the way at the bottom. We really have nothing. So we're gonna go ahead and top this off to full. Go ahead and check the level again. This is a pretty big tank, so I doubt we really did much there. Hang on. Okay. You can see here, we have that sucker all the way full. It's kind of a weird setup. It really is. It's like, why not just make a little section of the tank clear so we can see? But instead, Dodge wants you to go through all this nonsense. Okay, so now we're done with that. Put the cap back on, put your dipstick back in there. Okay, quick tip is wipe up any antifreeze, and if you're looking to get rid of coolant that's spilled, you can use brake cleaner, but honestly, just take warm water and just pour it over whatever you got it on. Just be sure to keep it clear of your alternator as well as electronics. But coolant will come off if you use some warm water and just pour it on. That'll be your best tip. And yeah, at this point, we're going to go ahead, give the vehicle a test drive, make sure it doesn't overheat. Check the coolant level one last time, and then we're done. All right, guys, so now that you got everything buttoned up and filled back up to the proper levels, you want to go ahead and put your heat on high, put the vent to center vent, put the fan on 1. It doesn't need to go to max. It really doesn't matter. Put heat to max, and that on center vent, that's the most important, your air direction. And then you want to drive for about 10 to 15 minutes, and you want to make sure the engine doesn't overheat. Make sure you keep an eye on your coolant level, which is right here. You can see we are right at the center, which is good. It was like this the whole time I started driving it once it warmed up. So as long as your coolant gauge doesn't go hot, you can plug in an OBD2 scanner as well to verify the actual coolant temperature off of the live data. I'm not going to do that because I know this truck's fine. Yeah, once you've test drove it with the heat on high and that center vent and everything's good to go, you can go ahead and shut the truck off and you're done.